All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Joanna Pangburn. I'm the president of SGA for the 2020-21 school year. I'm also a student in the I'm also an MPH student in the Health Policy Department, and I'll be serving on the executive board, and I'll also be moderating during this town hall. At any time, if you have any questions, feel free to submit those through the Q&A function that should be at the bottom of your screen. And we'll go ahead and get started with introducing our panelists. First up is Dr. Catherine Andrianopoulos. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Joanna. I'm Catherine Andrianopoulos. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Global Community Health and Behavioral Sciences. My role on the panel today is as representing the faculty as the general faculty chair.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Augustson in the Dean's office. I am in Director of Faculty Affairs and Operations, and I've been working a lot on the facilities in relation to COVID-19 and operations as we try to repopulate buildings.
Hi, I'm Susan Barrera. I'm in Finance and Administration, and I have been working with Tom also with the operations and repopulation of the building.
Hi, I'm Leslie Bayon, and I'm Department Administrator for SPHGM Student Affairs.
Hi everyone, I'm Dee Bowling. I'm the Director of Communications up in the Dean's office.
Hi, I'm Margie Cartwright. I'm the Executive Director of Admissions and Career Services, and I'll be talking today about how Career Services is preparing for the fall.
Hello, everyone. I'm Oscar Davila. I'm the IT Director for the School of Public Health, and my role today is to answer any technical questions you may have.
I'm Tonette Krause-Wood, Associate Dean for the MD-MPH program. I'm also a Professor of Medicine and Epidemiology.
Hi, I'm Molly Demos Kennedy. I'm a faculty member in Health Policy and Management. I'm also Associate Dean for Strategic Initiatives and the Vice Chair of the University Senate.
Hi, I'm Patty Kissinger. I'm a Professor of Epidemiology. I'm also the Associate Dean of Faculty Affairs and Development. I'm here representing part of the health strategy with Dr. Oberholman, mostly about contact tracing and symptom management or symptom monitoring.
My name is Richard Oberholman. I'm the chair of the Department of Global Community Health and Behavioral Sciences. I'm also a pediatrician and an infectious disease specialist. And as Dr. Kissinger mentioned, I'm serving on the Health Strategies Committee for the university, and I'll be talking about COVID testing.
Hi, everybody. I am Kelly Ward. I'm currently the student representative of Treasure on the Student Government Association, and I'll just be here to talk more about the student point of view.
And I'm Luann White. I'm the Senior Associate Dean, and I'll talk about our courses for this fall.
And I'm Thomas Levis, and I'm Dean of the School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine. So, Joanna, should I go? Joanna, you are muted. I can't hear
you. Sorry about that. Yes, I was talking. My screen froze up. We'll go ahead and get started with a few comments from Dean Levis, and then we'll head to Dr. White.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. These are complex and difficult times. This is not the first pandemic, not the first recession, not the first time that this nation has been at war, and not the first time that we've had a major national unrest over racism. But this is the first time that we've had all of these major disruptions simultaneously. On the heels of the COVID pandemic and its disproportionate impact on African Americans and other people of color, we have police murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Rayshard Brooks. It's understandable that we would feel that our safety is at risk. I certainly feel that way. Watching the video of Mr. Floyd's death, as his murderer kneels on his neck, indifferent to the human suffering he was causing, it has to shake you to your core. The video of Mr. Brooks's murder, shot in the back as he ran away, posing no threat to the police, just makes me exhausted. The country needs major fundamental change. It has needed this change for a long time, and there can be no disagreement with that statement. Change is needed not just in policing, but in all sectors of society, even public health. I'll be meeting with students on Thursday, tomorrow, and I've also scheduled a faculty and staff town hall for next week to discuss the effects of racism in public health and how we will forge a new direction for our school, where the Tulane University School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine will be a leader in addressing racism within academic public health. These are complex and difficult times, but in the face of uncertainty, it's still our responsibility to navigate. And we will navigate with concern for the health, safety for all, not just the faculty, staff, and students, but for our friends, our neighbors, and all New Orleanians. We will continue to weigh risks and apply the best available public health knowledge. These are a very complicated set of circumstances that we must contend with. And the facts are changing constantly. What we think we know now might be proven wrong tomorrow. So we need to be flexible. We all need to be flexible. If we are to fulfill our mission to create the public health knowledge that the world so desperately needs, to be true to our longtime role as a vital resource for our city, state, the nation, and the globe, and to educate the public health workforce of the future. What we do is important. Recent events has put on display the essential nature of our work, and our school has risen to the challenge. I am so proud to be a part of this school, and you should be proud too. The purpose of today's meeting is to give you an update and to get your feedback on planning for the fall 2020 semester. Some information we still do not have yet. Some information is just not available yet. No decision is final. All decisions are guided by the facts at the time. So while the current plan is to hold classes this fall in person, beginning August 19th, if the conditions at that time are not right, we will abandon that plan and arrange a contingency. This is the spirit in which all of the plans that we will discuss today should be taken. We're here to listen, we're here to hear your ideas, and we're here to let you know that we care about you and your health and everyone that's a part of our community. So I'll turn it over now to our first speaker, who will be Tom Augustson.
The objectives today in our planning overall with the repopulation of the buildings and bringing students back in the fall semester are first and foremost the safety of our entire community. That is our students, our employees, vendors, visitors, study participants, the community around us. It's also to provide a high quality educational experience for our students, to continue our world-class research operations, to be flexible, as the Dean was mentioning, to conditions as they change, to solicit feedback from faculty, staff, and students, and to make evidence-based public health decisions, because the thing that drives us is the thing that we are. So to talk more about the fall 2020 semester will be Dr. White.
Well, hello, everybody. We're charting new territory here. As Dr. Levice indicated, we have a pandemic, and this has totally put us into a whole new situation. We're looking at how do we keep everybody safe, but we're also looking how do we allow everyone to continue their education and to do that in a high quality way. So we're doing the best we can. We're open to suggestions, and we're putting forth this plan. The President Fitz has indicated, as has the whole university, that the university will open with in-person classrooms this fall. We'll take all of the precautions with social distancing, have hand washing available, and all people will wear face masks, but we will move forward with class. One way we can do this is to incorporate a hybrid, or as some are calling it, the high flex teaching techniques that allow us to address our restrictions on gatherings of having too many people in one place and to accommodate social distancing. We're also looking to how do we have a high quality educational experience where we want to make sure that what we put forth is a way that students will get value from their education. We also recognize the need to be flexible. With COVID-19, the situation changes daily. About the time we make a plan, something happens and we have to readjust. That's going to continue. But I want to say that's public health. So instead of fighting it, let's use it as a learning experience and move forward and say, how can we emerge on the top of all this? Here at Public Health will offer our full slate of courses for fall 2020. But I want everyone to remember flexibility is the key. Next slide, please. So we'll have the classes in Tidewater. So here are the conditions, and these are some of the factors that have led us in the direction that we've gone, is that we need to maintain 6-foot social distances in the classroom and the elevators. My colleagues in infectious disease who know so much more about this than I do have said whether we're phase 1, phase 2, 50%, 25%, the bottom line is we still need to maintain 6-foot social distancing. So we are assembling our classrooms based on that premise. We also looked at the elevators, and in Tidewater, the elevators are a barrier. As anyone who's tried to go up or down the elevators during the times we're changing classes, we know it takes several elevators of just packed full to move people. So it's not going to be feasible to move everyone to the 12th floor classrooms during this time. So for that reason, we have looked on the first floor, and we have space there that we can convert to classroom space. That'll be the Diboll Auditorium, the gallery where we can add in tables and desks. We'll use the snack bar seating area. And there's one classroom down there, 105, which is a classroom that we'll be able to use. And we'll tell you more about that planning. The 12th floor classrooms are there, so by using social distancing, students can still use those for studying or for meetings or things like that, as long as we maintain the 6-foot social distancing. You may also set up meetings with your advisor, although you may want to do this via Zoom because we are trying to decrease the density in our building and maintain safety for everyone. But the point is, students are not excluded from the rest of the building. Welcome everywhere. You just need to fight the elevators and keep social distancing and all of our health in mind when you do it. So our planning, we've tried to listen to a number of voices, student voices, faculty voices, and you know what? We have a lot of people, so we're getting mixed messages. We've heard that most students would really like to attend classes on campus, and that is what Tulane University is committed to doing. But it won't be the same as it was last fall or even the beginning of last spring, because the pandemic is here and that is our new normal and we have to accommodate. We also know that some students are requesting options to virtually attend class. We hear you and we know that is a factor. So that in any given course, there's likely to be a mix of students who are in a classroom and those who join us via Zoom. Next slide. So we're trying to make this work. One of the things we're fortunate here in the school is that we have many, many years of doing distance learning, and we have an amazing infrastructure for supporting this as well as experience. So in a hybrid or high flex model, it is a blend of synchronous, which is both in person or by Zoom. So synchronous is real time, but it could be in 2 modes, in person or by Zoom, or asynchronous, which are assignments that you do on your own. It employs kind of a flipped classroom model where there may be assignments or work that you do prior to class so that we can reserve the class time for really higher level learning, for interactive learning, so that there can be discussions or small groups or problem sessions or case studies or a number of different venues where you can apply the materials and use more critical thinking. In my opinion, I think that this will improve the overall educational experience than just listening to straight lectures. Many of our faculty already do this, so we're hoping to expand upon it. But the point is that we're going to use this as an opportunity to really move forward our way of teaching so that you as students will get a really value from the educational time. But it also means you're going to need to come prepared for class. It's not like you're in a class and then you do a homework and maybe you put it off for a couple of weeks. It's going to be important that you come prepared so that if there's a discussion, you can actively participate in that discussion. Or if there's some kind of exercise, you already know it. We're asking faculty, if they have straight lecture material, to record it and put that up as an assignment that you look at before you come to class. We think this will be more efficient for everyone, and so everyone's going to have to do their part. But we're looking for how we can be highly flexible with the aim of enhancing learning. Our classes will be held in person, and it'll be the option for students to Zoom into the class. We'll talk a little bit about the technology later, but we're setting up the technology to accommodate this model. There will be cameras and microphones so that the students who are on Zoom can see what's going on in the classroom, and those in the classroom will see the students who are coming in by Zoom. Zoom has many features for small group discussions that we have used in our online learning that work really very well. So there's going to be some things we all have to learn, but we're looking at this. How can we give you a good learning experience? So we'll use the classroom time for active learning, and it's supported by prior assignments in preparation for these classes. So next slide. So to do this, we all just can't walk into the classroom blind and it all work well. So we're doing a lot with our faculty to help them prepare for this. This is a real giant step for our faculty, so I ask you to cut them some slack because they're learning along with all of us. And it may be that students are a little bit ahead of us as faculty in technology anyway. So give us a little bit of slack. But our intent is to really move this forward in a good way. So we have set up a student resource Canvas site. On this Canvas site, there will be a lot of resources for you so you can prepare for these type of classes. So what to expect? How will they do? There's tutorials on Zoom, on how to use Canvas, online learning, many different resources there that you can take advantage of. Our public relations is in the process of setting up a website so you can get easy links to these various sites. We're enhancing classroom technology. As I said before, we're really trying to say how can we make sure that we have the sufficient technology in place that will support these teaching methods. So the first floor classroom space that I mentioned earlier will be equipped with, as I said, cameras, with microphones, with computers. The gallery, I think, will be turned into a very nice teaching space. We'll be moving some of the desks from the 12th floor so we can have social distancing on the 12th floor. Some of that extra desk will be moved into the gallery and set up as a very nice teaching area. Tech support. Our public health tech support led by Oscar is always there to help you. So you can either email or call them. These numbers will be put on your course Canvas sites, and they're also on the school website. So if you have a question or if you have a problem, please just call or email the tech group. They're extremely responsive, and I've found, which I'm not that tech savvy, they keep me going and make me seem like I can do everything. So call Oscar and his guys, and they'll help you. We're also looking at additional TAs. Since we are going to have both on campus and perhaps people coming in by Zoom, we'll have some TAs who will help drive the technology. I taught one of the 60/20 courses last year, and we taught it both on campus and online. And the TAs were just wonderful. They drove all of the technology. They were able, they learned all of the different techniques. And so I could concentrate, as a faculty, I could concentrate on my content, and the TAs drove it. So that will help all of us. We will be looking for additional TAs. So we'll have online training for the TAs. Our traditional TA training that we've had in person, we're putting it into online, and that will be part A. And that's just more or less how to be a TA, what you need to do in the various operational aspects. We've also added a part B, which is TA support for technology in the hybrid courses. So TAs will be able to get training. Next slide, please. So scheduling, this is challenging. So our courses will meet, and we're scheduling them for once a week. So in our hybrid or our HyFlex model, it will be a blend of the in-person or Zoom real-time meetings and a blend of asynchronous assignments. So to fit everything into our first floor, or maybe we'll even use some nearby space, there'll be one in-person meeting a week. That in-person meeting will have Zoom capabilities for those who are not able to attend in person. The second meeting, since most of our classes are scheduled twice a week, will either be a Zoom real-time meeting at the scheduled time, or it could be instruction, some asynchronous assignments. That will vary from course to course. You know, as you know, all of our courses are different, and depending on the course content and how they're structured, the balance between the real-time and the asynchronous will differ, but it'll use this overall general model. We're going to shorten the classroom times to 60 minutes. They're currently 75 minutes. We're doing this because this will allow one group of students who are in a classroom to leave, the room to be wiped down, and then the next group of students to enter. We're trying to avoid congregation of big groups of students in the hallway, or big groups of people in the hallways during the time that we're changing courses, again, so that we can maintain social distancing. Courses that meet once a week for 2 or 3 hour blocks, they will have one meeting, and the rest of the time will be made up with either real-time Zoom and/or instruction. We're looking to put our larger courses, such as the foundational courses, totally online. This will help both with the building distance, social distancing in the building, but it also, we already have these courses in a well-prepared online format that we use in our online programs and our distance learning programs. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Margie Cartwright, and she will talk more about career services.
Thank you, Dean White. Yes, so I am going to talk about career services and do that in the context of some of the academic and extracurricular resources that the school is developing overall. And one of those does include that student resource canvas site that Dean White mentioned a few minutes ago. But moving away from the classroom and into professional development, I want to tell you what the career team is doing this summer to prepare for the fall. And what we're doing is getting ready to have a primarily virtual set of activities for all of our normal offerings. That's recruiting, networking, advising, and instruction. You know, every summer we spend time reaching out to employers and practicum sites that we have relationships with and ones that we want to have relationships with. And this summer, as we do that, one of the things that we're being very intentional about is letting those employers know that Tulane is coming back to New Orleans, that our students are coming back to New Orleans, many of them, for in-person classes, and that our students are available not just to participate in virtual experience opportunities, but also available for in-person experiences that are safely and appropriately physically distanced in compliance with federal and local guidelines and any guidelines that the university might come up with as we get closer to the fall. And I'll tell you, since I look at our job listings every day, since the spring, we have seen a tremendous flexibility by employers and by students. Employers that would never have considered just even a bit of remote work have offered really thoughtful, robust virtual internships. They've offered hybrid types of practicums that mix in-person and online components. And we're seeing a lot of employers and practicum sites start to shift virtual experiences into more on-ground experiences as physical distancing restrictions are being lessened around the country. So although when we look to the fall, things are very uncertain, we can't plan perfectly. Looking back to those first hectic months of the spring and the pandemic, we still had students securing amazing opportunities with the UN, with the World Health Organization, Save the Children Latin America, the city, the state, numerous private and nonprofit entities. And so your faculty and career services are already working to maintain those relationships, develop new ones, and try and have as much flexibility for you when the fall comes as possible. In terms of how it's going to look to be interacting with employers in a mostly virtual environment, I'm really excited because I think we're going to see a lot of development past basic information sessions by employers. Employers are talking a lot to career centers now about how to have really engaging programs that present the employer and its work in an authentic way so that the student and the employer can both assess if they really are a good fit and do that as efficiently as possible. So I think we'll see more flexibility in programming. I think we'll see employers interacting with the campus more frequently and possibly in less formal ways. I think we'll see recruiters being more available, more coffee chats, more workplace virtual tours, virtual shadowing, sample projects. I think it's going to be a really inventive time, and I think that a lot of these types of interactions are going to persist post-coronavirus because employers are already telling us that they are, through virtual recruiting and through virtual experiences, connecting with a much greater diversity of students, and that's enriching their workplace, and that's a benefit to everybody. So I know this talk is primarily about the fall, but I did want to steal just a minute to talk about the summer. Career Services is open all summer. We are available and advising students every day. Normally we don't have a lot of programming in the summer, but to combat, we don't want to be socially isolated even though we're physically distanced. We have been having a series of student alumni happy hours, which are relatively informal chats for students and alumni to connect. We have extended our short-term mentoring program, so that's available to everybody on the call today if you'd like some one-on-one time with an alumnus of the school. And we're rolling out a series of quick tip videos on the job search. So if you're not quite up for an advising appointment, but you want to get some advice, you can tune in through Instagram or the Facebook page for that. So please don't wait till the fall. If you have concerns about the fall or you just want a head start, we'd love to interact with you in the summer. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Leslie Bayan in Student Affairs.
Leslie, you're muted.
I'm so sorry. So I'm happy to say that SPHCM Student Affairs is no longer totally working remotely. That will have someone in the office each day over the summer in preparation for your return to campus this fall. We also will continue working closely with SPHCM, SGA, and the other student organizations to continue optimizing your student experience as much as we can. At this point, SGA is planning for next year, along with departments and student affairs, to have activities. Planning is different, so please bear with us as final details are decided with social distancing and other safety factors taking priority. It is important to remember these changes are for the fall only, as we are adapting to changes as they come, but hopefully national, state, city, and university guidelines will provide a different experience in the spring. But this all remains to be seen depending on COVID-19. But with things as they are presently, we plan for there to be some type of in-person component to activities similar to classes. The metro area has also opened some social spaces, and we hope for conditions to continue improving. For instance, this date is to be determined, but SGA will have a paddleboard event at some point this year, which participation will be broken up into smaller groups along with social distancing. There are also green spaces around town, such as City Park, that could be looked at for activities, and uptown outdoor spaces may be options as well. As for SPHTM spaces, we are working on guidelines for the 12th floor to be used safely for student meeting space. But again, as Dean White said, it is important to remember that elevators are our barrier, and even though they will be in working order or fixed very promptly, it is important to be early for anything that's going to be on the upper floors. The room reservation scheduler will also be updated to show maximums, and any guidelines will be provided. Finally, a student experience committee has convened to work out details for activities. So please continue to check your Tulane emails and feel free to reach out to SPHTM Student Affairs or SGA with any feedback that you have. Things may be different, but I can really tell you from a personal perspective that it's good to be back in the building and see familiar faces. So speaking of the building, as everyone has been speaking about, there are many practical and innovative plans in place for your return, which Tom Augustin will now address.
Hi, everyone. So yes, we have been working diligently to get the building ready to repopulate with faculty and staff. There have already been some folks in the building, and Dean Barrera and I have been working daily on this, working with the university, which has had a facilities and operations committee, and we've also had a downtown facilities and operations committee that we met on a weekly basis. So we made a lot of progress so far, but we will make more progress over the next month. One of the things that we're doing this Friday is that the university has contracted with a global environmental health and safety firm to provide an assessment of all Tulane buildings. And so Friday they'll be coming to the Tulane building, looking at our spaces to determine where the problem areas are located, applying good public health science to how to best handle physical distancing, and they'll generate a list of recommendations that we will be addressing. So we've already surveyed the space and we've made some changes, but this will be an extra level of attention to key areas such as elevators and shared offices, the classrooms, those kinds of things. And so we'll be working on that over the next month. Some of the changes that have been made already, as Dr. White mentioned, we have turned and are turning some of the first floor spaces into classrooms. We've already designated elevator cabs to 2 persons an elevator. We posted a lot of signage about that, and we've also put stanchions on the first floor with directions for lining up given 6-foot physical distancing. So we'll talk to the consultants on Friday and get their feedback on how we've got things set up. They'll make recommendations, but we feel like we're kind of already have an idea how it should go, and then we'll tweak it as we get their feedback. We're also exploring additional space outside of Tidewater. We've got some buildings in the area, and we don't feel like we have to be held to just the first floor of Tidewater. So we're looking into some other spaces, and we will see what comes out of that. So overall in the building, the whole building has been disinfected from top to bottom. And a contractor came in and went through all the offices, all the spaces, and did that a month ago, 3 weeks ago. And we've added additional hand sanitizers in common areas such as the elevator lobbies and we'll be adding more in the most high-touch areas, most condensed areas. As was already mentioned, the elevators have gotten quite a bit of attention from our facilities folks. They completed some repairs, and they're going to be closely monitoring those because it's such a critical point during the repopulation of the buildings. And then, as I mentioned, we posted signage up in the building. We'll be adding even more, but you know, when you come in, everybody will be very aware of the policies on physical distancing, on good hygiene. So that will be very visible to everyone who walks in the door. And then lastly, we've ordered supplies for face coverings, hand sanitizers, and disinfectant. And we received notice today that some of those have come in. We're going to give some supplies to the departments, have some on the first floor. We feel very confident we'll have enough supplies of those items to make available to everyone who needs them. So to talk a little bit about testing and symptom monitoring, Dr. Oberhelman will be next.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the health strategy that Tulane University is developing and rolling out. There's a comprehensive multi-component health strategy to help keep everyone as healthy as possible, to promptly identify cases of COVID-19, and to get appropriate control measures in place as quickly as possible whenever there are cases. So the centerpiece of that is coronavirus testing. There are really three main types of coronavirus testing that you hear about in the press and that you read about. The first one, probably the most important, is symptomatic testing. People who have symptoms that are compatible with COVID-19, respiratory complaints and other complaints like loss of sense of smell. There's a long list now that many people are familiar with. So people with symptoms may want to be tested so that they can isolate appropriately and receive prompt medical attention. When a case of COVID-19 is identified, the next part of testing involves contact tracing, tracing close contacts who may have become infected by the person who's testing positive, to test them as well and allow them to isolate if they're positive too. So we call that contact testing. The third component is surveillance testing. We've learned that with this virus, there are a fair number of people who have coronavirus infection but don't have symptoms. That's not the primary way that coronavirus is spread. It's spread mostly by people who are ill, but there's enough spread by people who are not ill that it makes sense to do periodic testing of people who are well. So we call that surveillance, and this is just good public health practice that I'm sure you've already learned about. So to tell you about what's in place, it's a little different now than it will be in the fall. In the fall, there's going to be a comprehensive university-wide testing program for students, faculty, and staff from all parts of the university. And that will involve testing upon re-entry to the university. So new students and returning students will all have coronavirus testing done before they return to campus, probably starting late July or early August, so that people who return to campus, we know that they've tested negative before they come back. The same thing will be true for faculty and staff. Following that, there will be periodic testing for all faculty, staff, and students, probably something on the order of monthly. That plan is not fully developed yet, but it's likely it'll be something like monthly testing. And certain groups may need to be tested more frequently. And again, that's all what we call surveillance. So, but people who are symptomatic, who need to be tested because they're sick, can get tested at any time. Those testing services are currently available through Student Health. They will be more widely available starting in the fall with new testing centers, one on the downtown campus and one on the uptown campus. So if you're located in New Orleans now, you can get coronavirus testing at the Student Health Center on the uptown campus. So it's off of Willow Street on the uptown campus. We don't have a downtown testing location at this time, but all students from all parts of the university are welcome at the uptown campus health clinic. You need to call to make an appointment to get COVID-19 testing. So their phone number is 865-5255. And you can, if you don't have that written down, you can also look it up online and make an appointment if you need testing. They're also doing a limited number of tests for people who are not symptomatic right now, but they are definitely doing symptomatic testing for students. Starting in the fall, you'll have a testing center downtown if you're a downtown student, and you'll also have surveillance testing as part of our testing plan. I'll skip over contact tracing and let Dr. Kissinger talk a little bit more about that since she's working very closely with that group. Another component is symptom monitoring. Part of a good COVID-19 control strategy involves checking yourself, everyone, students, faculty, and staff, just doing a brief self-check every morning. And if you're not feeling well, especially if you have a fever or if you have respiratory symptoms, it's a good idea not to go in, because that's when an indication that you should be tested. And until you've been tested and know that you're coronavirus free, then you shouldn't be in contact with other people. So that symptom monitoring will be in place with either a smartphone app or some kind of other systematic platform that's going to be university-wide. And lastly, when we do identify individuals who are COVID-19 positive, then if there's an office space or a living space, there's a rapid response disinfectant team that will clean it promptly and to try to reduce any secondary spread that way. So I'm happy to take any questions about testing afterwards. And Dr. Kissinger, do you have anything else to add on contact tracing?
That was super comprehensive. So the only thing I have to add is that, like Dr. Hellman said, it's test, trace, and isolate. So if anybody's positive, they're going to be isolated. If you're in a dormitory and you can't isolate yourself, there will be accommodations for that. It's mostly for the undergrads, but if you do have a situation where you cannot isolate on your own, that we will have facilities for that. And then anybody who's contact tracing, there's going to be a cadre of highly trained people that have been trained by CDC and Johns Hopkins University, their protocols to anybody who's positive will be interviewed to find out anybody who has been in contact with them. They will not mention the person's name who's positive. So it's highly confidential, but they will then go and contact those people and then test those people. Until somebody gets a negative test and if they're a contact of somebody, until we know that they're negative, they will be asked to quarantine themselves. So they will not be able to go to class, but they can take classes, in the high flex model. So there is a whole procedure for making sure that we quell any mini epidemics or any hotspots before they become widely disseminated. Thanks.
All right, I think now we're going to go ahead and transition into the question and answer. I'll be reading the questions aloud. First, we'll start with the questions that students sent via email before the town hall, and then after that, I will go ahead and get into that question and answer function that's located in your Zoom box. So the first question is, will graduate workers and doctoral students with offices and desks in Tidewater be able to come back into those spaces? If so, how will they be adapted for physical distancing? Does anybody like to take this?
Excuse me. That's a good question. And yes, they'll be able to come back, but we're looking at several options. In shared offices, we're trying to get occupants of those offices spread out into other spaces. Also looking at kind of flex time options, having some people come in on some days and others on other days. If it's a big enough space, there's the potential to put a divider in there or to keep physical distancing of students, postdocs, et cetera. So the consultants that come on Friday will recommend measures that we should take for that. So yes, there definitely will be options to come in, but it just may not be the same availability that has been had in the past. We may have to do some adjusting of schedules, that kind of thing. So stay tuned.
All right. Next up, TAing classes may be more demanding as classes go online or hybrid. Will we be compensated for increased work? And along those lines, will TAs be issued guidelines on how to conduct office hours and review sessions?
Well, the training, the TA training will have information on how to do office hours, how to use Canvas to respond to students. That's really worked well in other classes where we've used this model. And then I would imagine, and Susan Barrera, you can say this, but the amount of time that students work will be compensated.
Yes, we can work on that. We can work on that structure. Yeah.
All right, on to the next question regarding technology. Will students be able to access software like Stata, SAS, and SPSS remotely? And will the computer labs be open and adapted for physical distancing?
Dr. White, you want me to answer that one?
Yes, why don't you do that one? This is good news.
Yeah, so we actually have virtual labs that you can access any of the software we currently have at the building at the Tidewater using either HTML or a software called Horizon Client. So those options will be there for you. The labs will also be open in the Tidewater, and we'll be using the social distancing and using the CDC guidelines and the university guidelines to make sure that we have the best possible experience for you with using social distancing.
All right, will the school be investing in an online whiteboard software so instructors in a flipped classroom can screen share and work through examples with students via Zoom?
Yes, Oscar, you want to talk about how you're doing that?
Yeah, sure. So Windows 10 does have an option for a whiteboard. What we're currently looking at is the ability to, well, installing touch screens on each of the classrooms so the instructor can easily write on the screen so they can project what they're writing to the screen onto the projector or in Zoom. So we're looking at those possibilities. But yes, Windows 10 actually has a whiteboard software already available. We just need to install the touch screens on in all of the classrooms.
Okay. If students are interested in creating a remote semester, are we afforded additional options for remote classes? Are we able to participate in hybrid offerings remotely if we feel it is too risky to attend in-person classes?
So the way that, or one of the reasons that we are looking at the hybrid classes for many different reasons. One is to reduce our density in the building, but also to be able to accommodate those who, for whatever reason, cannot come to campus. We're having on-campus classes, and that's what we're encouraging, but we recognize that there are some who, for whatever reason, can't. So they will be able to come in through the hybrid model. The foundation courses, will put most of them into an online format because those are our larger courses, but the rest of the courses will be in hybrid, which will allow students to come in. Just as kind of a frame of reference, we have a large number of very small classes. Over 30% of our classes are 10 students or less. In those classes, the faculty and students can find whatever works best for those small classes. In the classes that are 15 to 40, that's where the hybrid model will come into play, because there's likely that there will be students both in the classroom and students who come in through Zoom. There will be some differences from class to class on just because the content is different, the way they're taught is different. However, the framework will be that students can Zoom into a class. But it's also recognized that when they Zoom into a class, they'll also participate. CELT, which is the University Center on Teaching and Learning, will be doing training for our faculty for how to engage people who are both in the classroom and online into active discussions, and how to use some of the breakout rooms in Zoom. So it'll be active participation. So if you Zoom into a class, you're going to have to be prepared to participate in the class, not just watch it.
Awesome. And we will be extending this question and answer until 4 o'clock, just because we went a little bit over on time. Some of our panelists will not be able to stay the whole time, but the vast majority will be able to. All right, the next question is, what is the process for determining which classes will be held in the first floor space and which classes will remain in their originally planned space? Will there be some element of prioritization for larger class sizes?
Okay. We are looking to put all of the courses onto the first floor. We can do this because when we have it once a week, if a course meets, say, Tuesday and Thursday, some of the courses will be on Tuesday for their in person, and some of them will be on Thursday. We're working out that schedule now. So all of those classes will be on first floor. There will be some, like the foundational courses, that will be entirely online. Again, we're working with the faculty who are teaching them. We have these courses in online format, but we need to make sure that the faculty who teach them are able to do that. Since the software for the computer labs is in the cloud, and there is a virtual way to get to that, some of the classes that use software in the computer labs will be able to do that outside of the computer lab. So we're trying to schedule everything on that first floor. And I'll tell you, it's a scheduling nightmare, but we're working on it.
In regards to classes as well, will the 60-minute time limit apply to Zoom classes?
Yes, well, again, the instructor will have to say, because the Zoom classes, you don't have to change class and we don't have to have time for this. Some of those could go the extra 15 minutes. Again, the instructor will do it. In shortening these classes to 60 minutes, we have to make up that extra 15 minutes somewhere. And the university has issued some guidance about having asynchronous instructional time for those classes. So the instructors will be monitoring how much instructional time that they have, so that we get the full 45 hours of instruction, so that we can award the degree credit. So I wish I had every little detail, but some of this we just have to figure it out as we go along. We're trying to do as much planning as possible, but we're also trying to be as flexible as possible, so that, you know, it's not just a mandated one size fits all and we all go into a little peg, because we're too different in public health to do that. So what we're trying to do is set up a framework that'll work. And then, you know, if you're in a class with 5 people, it's going to be different than if you're in a class with 40 people. And if you're in a biostat class, it may be different type of instructions than if you're in a social science class. So we're working on it. And and I'll just say right now, if anybody has any ideas, send them to me because I'm open for ideas.
Will using a flipped classroom be an option for instructors or a requirement?
They're being set up as a flipped classroom.
Will the school be issuing guidelines on in-person examinations in regard to testing and how exams will run?
The university has put out some guidance on testing, and we will follow that university guidance. We're going to have to see how that works in each classroom. The university schedule was set up that we start a week early, and then we end classes before Thanksgiving, so that exams would be afterwards, and with the option, for those that had it, that there would be online exams. So that's the university guidance. So we're going to have to see how that works once we get our system or our plan all set up.
Will the food area still be open?
What we're plan to do is to put a partition in the seating area so the vending area will still be open. Susan, do you have anything else to say on that?
That's correct. They'll still have the vending machine options.
All right, and that was it for the questions that were emailed. I'm going to go ahead and go into the Zoom chat. All right. All right, how will we ensure the quality of education is still the same if the class times are being reduced?
Would you read that again, please?
Of course. How will the faculty at Tulane ensure that the quality of education is still the same if the class times are being reduced?
Well, the meeting time may be reduced, but the instructional time is not reduced. It'll still be the same amount of instructional time. When we move to the hybrid model and the flipped classroom model, there is some of the assignments will be instructional. So that instead of, for example, the most obvious is that instead of listening to a lecture, a PowerPoint lecture in class, that'll be recorded and you look at that before class and you use that in class time for discussion. It may be you'll have problem sets that you'll work, and then in the class they'll work through those problem sessions. There may be readings that you have to do, and then in class there'll be a case study or various scenarios or various discussion panels on that reading. So it'll be designed in. This has really taken advantage of the new best practices and for instruction. So in a way it's really accelerating things that we have already been trying to do in our classroom. Many of you will notice that in classrooms while there's just some who do straight lectures, many are doing other kind of activities in class, not just long PowerPoint slides. There's sometimes always a need to have some kind of basic instruction on this is what it is, but our faculty have been working very hard. So this is really accelerating what we're doing to keep up with the best practices in education.
Hi, I want to jump in and kind of piggyback on what Dean White was expressing there, and just to really reassure everybody that over this summer, your faculty are hard at work. And when we think about what the classroom environment is going to be like in the fall, it's not the crisis scenario that we all had in the spring where we were all very quickly moving content online. And all the faculty that are the teaching faculty I see on this panel are also undergoing the training that the school heavily invested in, and the School of Public Health is one of the most representative schools at the university participating on this training on how we can really think about creating this hybrid environment. One of the other questions was, are we going to have a lot of discussion posts? And I want to reassure you that we're not only thinking of discussion posts as one form of interaction, but thinking about other ways that we can kind of motivate students to interact with important material and with each other. You might be asked to do blog posts. You might be asked to design a podcast. Like, there are a lot of creative ways that faculty are thinking about how to move our material online. And one of the good but unintended maybe consequences of the crisis is that it's really made us look at our material with fresh eyes and be creative about what we're teaching. And so I have similar enthusiasm that I did the first year that I was teaching, except maybe a little bit more experience now. So I think it's going to be It's not a repeat of the spring. This is going to be a new fall for all of us.
That was great feedback. The next question is talking about registered student organizations. Will clubs and RSOs be required to have their meetings online, or will the number of attendees be limited? Who would like to take that?
Yeah, that's a new question. I haven't heard that one before. So I don't think that we've discussed that. But I think the theme here is that we need to be safe, and I think in most cases, online meetings are going to be safer than in-person meetings. But if the clubs can hold in-person meetings in a safe way, then they can hold the meetings in person.
Will students have to choose whether or not they take the classes online only or choose the option to be in person, or will they be able to choose varying from week to week? So one week they may feel up to going to class, the other week they may not feel so well.
Well, they are set up that they could come in one week, be in class another week. However, for the stability of the class, it's best if they pick one way, but we all know that sometimes people may be sick or something may happen and they might need to Zoom in. But what we're trying to do is to have an on-campus presence as safely as we can, but knowing that these are crazy times and just things happen. So in the theoretical overview way, they could come in one week and not the other. However, they should work with their instructor, because some instructors, it may feel better, or the class may be better if there's more people in person. It's very difficult sometimes to juggle where you have maybe 2 people one week and 20 people the next week who are sitting in that classroom. So I would just say get with your instructor and see what works out. But from an overview point of how this is designed, you could come in one week by Zoom, you could come in the next week in person. There should be sufficient seat time or seats in every classroom to hold what we expect to be the enrollment. We're basing this on enrollment from last fall because those are the complete numbers. We don't have complete enrollment now to estimate how many people are going to be in any class. So I'm using the fall 19 enrollment numbers for arranging these classes. In some classes, you're going to be in a room that is much too big for the number of students. Like there'll be some students in some classes in Diboll, and that's a very big room. But in the other rooms, we're trying to proportion it to the numbers of students. But you won't be limited for coming to class by not having enough seats in the classroom.
All right, the next question is talking about, will professors have a deadline to decide the style of course they are going to teach? So when can students expect to know what their schedule is going to look like for the fall?
Your schedule should be the same. We're offering the same courses at the same times. The difference is if you have, most of our classes meet twice a week, and they will meet once a week. So if you're on a Wednesday, Friday, you may meet either the Wednesday or the Friday. If you're Tuesday, Thursday, the Tuesday or the Thursday, with the other time open, or if there were another Zoom session. But the schedules should remain the same. We can't start changing the schedule, because once we do that, then we'll bring in conflicts. People have already selected their courses, and we would have to go back to ground zero for scheduling, and that would be a nightmare for everybody.
And let me add one other clarifying issue, that there really are the only classes that will be taught exclusively online are the foundational courses. So if you are a returning student, most likely you've taken those courses already and you won't be affected by that. If there may be some other courses that we have to bring entirely online, we would only do that if that was necessary. And if there are any additional courses that will be only online, you will be notified if we had to make that decision. That would only happen if there was no other alternative than to go to totally online.
Yeah, and the new room numbers will be put into Banner when we get them finalized. but Banner will still say Tuesday, Thursday, and we will have other postings that'll say this Tuesday class meets on Tuesday, and this Thursday class meets on Thursday. So we don't have a way in Banner to indicate it's only, you know, it's got a Tuesday, Thursday, but it's only meeting in person on Tuesday, and Thursday is a virtual meeting. So that'll all be posted very clearly on the website, and we're working diligently on that right now.
What considerations or recommendations are in place or are being looked at for laboratory rotations or for student volunteers where social distancing may not be possible for the entire duration of the semester?
Well, for the laboratory classes, the laboratory rotations are primarily in tropical medicine, and that department will have to work out how to do laboratory rotations with social distancing. And what was the other part of the question?
And then students that are volunteers where social distancing may not be possible.
That gets into the practicum, and we will follow the university guidelines. But if there is volunteer activity, we certainly recommend the social distancing. You know, volunteer activity is a volunteer activity. If it's associated with our practicum or something like that, there will have to be all of the precautions, including social distancing, in those in those two-lane activities.
If students choose to take a leave of absence, can they do so without any stipulations?
Leslie, maybe you can say the particular thing. Students can take a leave of absence, but there's usually a designated time. Do you have more to add, Leslie?
Yes, we do have a form for that. If you do take a leave of absence, and there's a determination from there if it can be accommodated.
Can you address the conflicting messaging to doctoral students about their GA roles, access to Tidewater, and timelines? All communication has generally been directed to students, but the demands and needs of doctoral students may often be different.
Can you expound more on what the conflicting information is?
I know this was an anonymous post, but if the person feels like they'd like to say it, they could raise their hand and speak. If not, we can address this at a later date, but we do need to understand the conflicting.
Yeah.
You know, some of the things is we don't know yet, even though it may sound like we're not doing anything, but we meet, the leadership team used to meet every single day, even on the weekends, and now we're meeting very frequently. And in addition, all of us are on committees, and some of our decisions are not necessarily in our control. Some of it is university level, and some of it is logistics. And so we can't always answer everything. So it might seem like we make one decision and it changes the next day. That's just because the nature of what we're dealing with right now. COVID does what it wants. So I think Dr. Levis had something else he wanted to add.
Well, no, I think you covered it. You covered it, but you know, we would it'd be helpful to know what the conflicting information is. If we put out conflicting information, you know, I'd like to know what that is so we can clarify that.
We did have someone raise their hand, and I have allowed them to speak. I'm not sure if it's related to that question or a different question, but Stephanie White, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
And Stephanie, you'll have to unmute yourself. I don't know if you have to do it, Tom, because I see her mute is on.
I will try.
Nope, sorry, I didn't mean to raise my hand.
Okay. Hello anyway.
Hello.
Glad you're here.
So whoever had that question, I noticed, like I said, it was anonymous, and if you don't feel comfortable talking, then you can send that email and that question anonymously to Dee, and it'll get back to leadership, and we will address it.
Yeah, you can send that to the sphcom@tulane.edu email address. And we can also, if we get information that is specific to doctoral students, we can include that. I think we're starting back with the 4 p.m. briefings. So if there are specific things to doctoral students, we'll create a bullet point for that.
And the thing I'd like to add about doctoral students is that once you get into doing your research, it's really on an individualized basis. So working with your faculty mentor and advisor is the best course. If you're still in classes, we can try to address that, but your department's probably a good place for information for how your department is going to be functioning.
How will Tulane in fact
that someone says that there's going to be a meeting with Dean Levis for doctoral students on June 26th. And so if you have specific issues, they're creating a shared document for that meeting. So you can include it in there.
How will Tulane faculty ensure that assignments are of quality and not a repeat of the previous semester where it seemed that assignments were given just to be instructional hours?
Okay, well, as some of my colleagues have said, our faculty have really been working hard this summer, and they've been in training. In the first batch, we had 40 faculty who have taken this CELT course, and in that they are addressing best practices and methods of doing that so that the exercises are really meaningful and are built into the class. Maybe some of you who've taken the course might give some examples.
Let me elaborate on that a little bit. So in the spring, we were facing an unprecedented scenario where we had to hurriedly go from our normal in-person course instruction to online. Many of our instructors, while our school has a long history of online teaching, not every instructor in our school has been a part of the online program. So we have many instructors that did not have experience. We had 1 week to get the courses online. So that was done hurriedly, and no one believes that the quality of every online experience in the spring semester was the quality that we expect to have. And I would hope that as students, you would be understanding that we were under a great deal of stress and pressure to get these courses up as quickly as possible. We now have time to prepare for the fall semester. We have time to go through a more rigorous process of developing the courses and developing those courses for the specific purpose of being taught online with course designers that are helping and with our faculty who have had training. The quality of the online courses you should expect will be much better than the quality of the spring courses because the spring courses did not have the time or the opportunity to go through that robust process.
Has there been any consideration for tuition credit due to the change of circumstances this semester?
The fall semester? You mean this semester, meaning the fall?
The fall.
We have had an online program for some time. We've launched a brand new online program last year. We do not charge a different tuition rate for our online courses because we believe that the quality of the online education is equal to the quality of the on-ground education. The course objectives, the course competencies, the information that's being taught is the same content. And we think that our online degrees are equal in quality to our residential degrees. So we don't treat them differently. Additionally, we're moving to a process. We've been working on this, and actually the pandemic has moved this much more quickly. We were working on getting to the point where all of our courses, or at least a large number of our courses, were taught in a format that students could choose whether to take any individual course online or in person and move seamlessly between the two modalities. We're still not entirely there, but we're a whole lot closer to that now than we was before. And we think we will get there very soon where students will be able to move between the two modalities. When students moving between the two modalities, again, the instructors are the same instructors, the course content is the same, the competencies are the same, and the learning is the same. We will not charge different rates for the online versus the on-ground courses.
And what will the protocols be for the libraries on both the uptown and downtown campuses?
Well, I do know that the library staff has been meeting to work on that, and I know that they will have a plan. That plan will be announced, and we'll put that out as well.
Will there be actual procedures in place for social distancing via the elevators, both inside and while waiting?
Well, while waiting, yes, we will ask people to queue in lines with maintaining 6 feet of distance. Within the elevator, we have already installed, I'm not sure what to call it, Tom, graphics within the elevator, giving people instructions on where to stand so that they can be socially or physically distant.
That's correct.
And masks will need to be worn at all times.
Yes.
You just have to do that to protect the community.
Masks will be required for all faculty, staff, and students. And any visitors entering the building will be given a mask if they don't have one.
And this question went under technology, but I think my questions got a little out of order. For students that need to access computer labs because their programming may not work on Macs or other computers that they may own, but they don't want to compromise their health, what resources and support does the school have in place to assist them?
I can take that question. You know, the main universe is the one that provides the infrastructure for the cloud, for the SaaS software and the Horizon client. So I can assure you that the infrastructure is there to support those software. They have the ability to up to 100 concurrent users. So the infrastructure is there. However, there is a main factor with user experience, and that's bandwidth, internet. So you have to have some good quality bandwidth, but even if you do, it's never going to have the same experience as you run in SaaS locally on the computer. So unfortunately, SaaS is only a Windows application, and there's not much we can do with that. All I could say, maybe perhaps going forward, the instructor might choose a different application, such as Python or Stata that's available for the Mac. But at this point, the cloud, the virtual lab is the best option we have right now.
And I think this question was previously answered, but just to clarify, the compensation for TA work will reflect the responsibilities and expectations that is expected of students as they operate as TAs online.
Yes, we will take a look at it and make any adjustments to the pay structure, and we'll let you on.
All right, my internet seems to be giving me a little bit of trouble, so if any of the panelists see any questions that I missed in the Q&A, I think we have reached the end.
I think there's one, I can read it, Joanna, if that's easiest for you.
That would be great. It's not popping up on my screen, sorry.
At least I don't think we got this one. A student posted it twice. And Patty, you said you'll answer it. So do you want to read it about the students who live out of state?
Oh, no, I just said it was, I thought it was answered. So I was just marking it as answered, but okay, I'll read it and then anybody can answer it. Or actually, Molly, you read it.
Many students live out of state. If classes will be available online and there's the possibility classes may go 100% online, it seems in our interest to stay out of state rather than sign a lease, pay rent in New Orleans. What would you advise for out of state students? I'll start for just a second. This is, I think, a personal decision. The dean started out this town hall by telling you that this is complex and changing, and I think we all see that. You can't pick up your phone without getting a push alert that something new is happening. And so we are operating with the information we have now and trying to make evidence-based decisions with the best available information, understanding that the landscape might change. And so you have our commitment for high quality education. You have our commitment that we will be on ground unless it's not safe to be on ground. and then those decisions just have to be made at a personal level based on your own circumstances. And I wish there was an easier path to that decision. I know that's a really tough one for you all.
Did anybody else have anything to add to that? I know that's definitely going to be a pressing question for a lot of students. Or
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is that we're gonna get a list out to you as quickly as possible about which courses will be exclusively online. The plan currently is not to have a large catalog of courses that are exclusively online. So unless there's a new outbreak that occurs between now and August that requires us to go back to stay-at-home order, the plan is for us to be in person and teaching in a hybrid format. So the plan is to be here. The plan is to teach in person, and so we're planning for you to be here. And the only way that would change is if situation changes and we simply have too many cases and the mayor calls for another stay-at-home order.
And then there is another question about TA pay. So this one is asking if there's any consideration about raising the TA pay. So the previous questions were geared more towards considering that they're that they'll be online, but now this is asking about raising TA pay.
We'll look at the whole situation, and we'll definitely adjust the pay structure. That's one of the things we need to look at. We're trying to get the course scheduling first, and then we'll move into that. There'll have to be a lot of training for TAs as well, dealing with more of the flipped hybrid classrooms.
Also, just because the building is not populated right now very much, it doesn't mean that everybody's not working. All the faculty are working really hard to get these classes in shape and ready to be high quality. We are meeting, I personally, and I'm sure everybody on this panel can say the same thing, I don't think I've ever worked this hard in my life, and I'm a hard worker. We are working really hard, and we are really preparing, and we have your interest in mind. You are the people that make this school. So we want to make sure that you're happy, and so we're doing everything we can to assure that there's not disruption and that you get the quality education you need. And you can also contact your advisors if you have advisee questions. Your advisors are online. You can email them. They can do a Zoom call. I've done Zoom calls with many of my my advisees. So we're still here and open for business. We're just doing it in a different way.
Dr. Kissinger, do you see any questions that I might be missing, or anybody else?
I don't, Joanne. I think you've done a great job of moderating. And just know that this is not the last time you can ever ask a question. We're probably going to have other town halls. I can't speak for Dr. Levis, but I'm sure he's going to want to. And if you have other questions, please feel free to ask us those questions.
Absolutely. Feel free to send those to Tulane's communications email, or you can send them to SGA. We'll make sure they get forwarded to the right person as well.
Your SGA representatives are on leadership committee, so they can bring issues to us, and they do, and we're very thankful, and we very much appreciate their participation.
Absolutely. The e-board has been hard at work these past couple months behind the scenes in committee meetings, trying to represent your voice as much as possible. So if you have any feedback from today's meeting, please feel free to email that as well. I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Dean Levis now for some closing comments.
Oh, well, just thank you for attending, and thank you for those questions, those clarifying questions. As you can tell, we're working hard at this, but we still don't have answers to some of this information. Some of it is because of decisions that we're not making. Others is because we're still waiting to get information that we'll need before we can make critical decisions. Know that every decision that we make is based on thinking about how best to ensure the safety of everyone. And I want to stress, when I say everyone, I don't only mean the students, I don't only mean the staff and faculty, but I also mean our neighbors here in New Orleans and the people of New Orleans who also can be impacted by our presence in the city. That these are the things that we're thinking about. We're making the best judgments that we can based on the best available information. The information is changing. And as you all know, what we think we know about COVID today, we may learn tomorrow that it's entirely wrong because there'll be a new finding. And when that happens, we will readjust and we will respond to that new information. So we will have additional town halls. We're gonna start developing a regular schedule of communicating with students as well as the incoming students who will be joining our school in the fall. And we'll ensure that we have multiple opportunities for you to ask us questions and to get any information from us that we're able to give. We will tell you everything that we're able to tell you. We will be completely transparent to the extent that it is practical and possible. And if we say we don't know it, it's simply because we just don't know the information yet. Thank you. Thank you all, my fellow panelists, for being on the call today, and thank you for your time.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Have a great summer. See you soon.
Yeah.